Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to r/relationship advice, where today we will read a story about a family that feels entitled to their grandpa's inheritance without doing any of the work. If you are new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. This story is titled Grandfather 77 Male announced that he is leaving everything to me, 29 male, and now everyone hates me. My grandfather has always had a very complicated relationship with everyone. He's a perfectionist and he has very high expectations. As a result, all 4 of his children more or less disappointed him. He was always of the belief that a successful family empire will only be made if everyone outperforms their father. This is more or less what happened with our family. My great-grandfather of my grandfather migrated to the US with nothing and was eventually able to support his family. Grandfather of my grandfather built on that and started a small business for himself. My grandfather's father became a successful trader. My grandfather expanded the business and created a very successful company. The problem happened when his children, my father, uncle and aunts, were not really able to prove to him that they can take things even further. According to my grandpa, none of them were worthy successors or worthy of the family name. Now, don't get me wrong, my grandpa is an a-hole, his expectations are usually so high and he's not a very kind person. I don't share his life philosophy, but I respect him a lot as a businessman and I love him. About 7 years ago, when I finished college, my grandpa offered me and my 3 cousins jobs. We were all the same age, give or take a few years, and he thought that he should offer us a place to work if we want to. He made it clear to us that this is not a handout and that we will be treated exactly like every other employee and we have to start at entry level. If we expected to go up and get promotions, we had to earn them. After about 6 months, one of the cousins went to him and asked for a promotion or a better salary. Grandpa refused. None of us got any promotions or pay bumps for 2 years. At that time, 2 of the cousins left and worked somewhere else. The other one went to Grandpa and told him that he wants a promotion, and Grandpa fired him. I never said anything about salary or promotion, as I kind of knew his personality and knew that there's no chance he will listen, so I kept working. After 3 years, he told me that he was impressed with my work, and unlike my cousins, I have shown that I am a person who is willing to work hard. He said that these 3 years were the test and I have passed. He promoted me slowly within the company, and within a year I was his right-hand man. For the past 3 years he's been teaching me ins and outs of the business, and I've been getting more and more responsibility, and right now I am running most of the business under his supervision. Last Monday he told me how disappointed he was with his children. Again, I don't agree with this assessment, and he told me that I was the son he always wanted, and he's never been happier in his life than now, that he thinks he has found a successor who is his flesh and blood. He told me that he wants to retire completely next year and let me to take over for him. I expected it to happen. That is what he's been grooming me for. What I didn't really expect was what came next. This weekend he invited everyone over to talk about inheritance and told them that he is leaving everything to me and me only. Nothing for my father or uncles and nothing for other grandchildren. I was as shocked as everyone else was. What he is leaving me with is not only the company and a mansion, but also a fortune in regards to money. So ever since it happened, nobody is talking to me at all. Not my father, not my sister, not my mother. My uncle called me and accused me of playing on my grandfather's feelings to scam everyone else out of their inheritance. Cousins removed me from their Facebook. I feel like I have lost all of my family. I understand that they must be frustrated because it is a lot of money, but how am I the one to blame? It is between them and their father. I didn't ask my grandpa to do this. I did not even expect him to do this, and my grandpa is very healthy and fit, and you would expect him to live on for many more years, so it is not really even an urgent matter. How can I solve this problem? My family are not bad people. I love my parents and sister and want a relationship with them, but they decided to not even talk to me. I get their frustration, but is there a way to come together? And a user in the comments said, when he does die, expect lawsuits. If you can work with your grandpa, I suggest making every precaution possible that this will is asserted and recognized. Get a psych evaluation, the works. If I were you, I would tell grandpa what your uncle said and explain him that you expect after he does pass that you will be mired in lawsuits and the firm will suffer for it. Ask him to think of ways to go the legal route and preempt as much of the fallout as possible. Your family is behaving like they are entitled to your grandpa's work. They are not. You wouldn't be an a-hole or a bad person for acknowledging that your grandpa has the right to choose who inherits. It is unfortunate that you seem to think he is unjust in choosing you. It makes it seem as though you think his family is entitled just because they are family, and they are not. You cannot know, and your grandpa is likely not to share just how hurt he is over the lack of true interest in his life and work his children have shown. Now don't get me wrong, your grandpa is not entitled to little worker minions just because they are his kids, but that doesn't mean it couldn't have been very hurtful to find they rejected his business. As a businessman, it is sound of him to not advance people just for being family, it is sound of him to choose you to be his heir. I suspect it would very much help you to try and see things from his point of view rather than fall into the pit of trying to assuage your guilty conscience by telling yourself he is an a-hole for choosing just you. Don't feel bad for the family, remember he gave everyone a shot, a chance, same as you. And guys, I would love to hear what you think about this story. Do you think that the grandpa is the a-hole? Or maybe that the family are the a-holes altogether? I gotta say, I am definitely more on the side of the grandpa because he seemed to be a very hardworking person, and if you are that kind of person, I don't think you would want to give everything away to someone who hasn't really shown that he is capable of working the same way. In addition, if you enjoy my content, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support the channel. Thank you very much in advance. Today's story was posted by user Scully152 on our own subreddit r/ripe stories, and it is titled Crazy Narcissistic Ex Truth 23+ Year Saga. And guys, just a general trigger warning for this story, because it does include some physical and emotional abuse in a relationship. Anyway, I've got a doozy of a story, so buckle up. It is a crazy truth and unfortunately a long one. This is a 23-year+ story from the very beginning to present. I met my ex right before I turned 18, he is 9 years older than me by the way. He was fresh out of jail and not ready for a serious relationship, so we broke up. I moved on, got married, had 2 kids, got divorced and ran into my ex. We dated again, had a child together. He didn't tell his family until 2 days before the baby was born about me or the baby, got married, got pregnant again, but lost the pregnancy, got pregnant again and had our second baby together. There were lots of abuse, every type you can think of. He cheated many times and gave me STDs. The kicker on his part was I had my yearly female check-up just a few months before I became pregnant with our youngest and came up with the fungal infection. Both partners have to be treated. He accused me of cheating, I hadn't. Abuse happened, we are both treated. I became pregnant and had the first pregnancy checkup and had the fungal infection again. We are both treated again. This infection, while pregnant, can cause loss of pregnancy. I wonder if that is why I lost the middle pregnancy. Again, physical abuse among other types of abuse happened throughout the relationship and pregnancies, including trying to strangle me during the 3rd pregnancy. He has had 2 long-term mistresses, both of whom he tried to get me to be friends with. One I suspected, the other I did not. I did become friends with the one I didn't suspect, became homeless at one point, he couch surfed while the kids and I were at a shelter. I got a pass from the shelter for New Year's Eve, kids stayed with the grandparents, he and I went to a friend's party. She was there, the one I suspected. Not wanting to start something at my friend's, I kept quiet. Midnight came and went, people went to sleep, ex and I had a blow-up mattress in the living room. Not living together at the time, we tried to do what comes naturally to married couples, and she tried to join in. I flipped, demanding she leave, she did. I don't have enough fingers and toes to tell you how many times she asked me if she could borrow my ex so she could have another kid. Ironically, her one kid's biodad is related to my nephew's through marriage through their mother's side, my sibling's ex-wife. During the homelessness I discovered his drug abuse. I always knew about the alcohol abuse. We are back in an apartment, more mistresses including the 2 previous ones, more abuse, he is out of work, I am working, he was arrested for assaulting a guy trying to protect me and for assaulting me, but I declined to press charges. He spent months in jail, got out. Throughout all this he forced me to go to church. I was not an overly religious person at the time. During the months he was in jail I still went because I feared him, but I actually started to enjoy going. The congregation was great and it felt like home. During the time he was in jail I decided to leave him. I did have relations with another. My ex didn't know at the time. He begged me over the phone and through letters to work things out. Stupidly I decided to. I ended it with the other guy. During the 2 weeks he was home I found Jesus, confessed everything, and I mean everything, to my pastor. During his incarnation I was paying my friend to watch my kids while I worked. Turns out her and her daughter, an adult herself, were both mistresses of my ex. My friend told my ex about my indiscretion. Ex beat me one night, started after I fell asleep. He would stop, let me fall asleep again, start beating me again. Rinse and repeat for a few hours. After a long time, he finally passed out. I woke up to my alarm, got ready to go catch the bus for work, called my pastor on my walk to the bus stop. He was on his sabbatical, spoke to his wife. She had the wife of one of the elders call me. The elder's wife convinced me to go to the police. I stopped at a local shop, called the police who picked me up and brought me to the station. They took my report and took pictures of everything. I simply could not hide the bruises this time. He had always been careful before. I drove with the police to the apartment, told them I left the door unlocked. They had me wait in the cruiser until they took him out. You could see the boot prints on the bruises he left all over my body, including my face. It took months for the bald spots to grow back. My kids were just starting to wake up as the cops brought him out. Having only 5 minutes before the bus came, they didn't go to school. I called my sister who was at work, crying, and told her everything. She left work and watched my kids literally all day. I called the elder's wife back and she came, picked me up, brought me to court, got a temporary restraining order, and then she took me to the hospital. She did not drop me off until almost 11 p.m. The pastor's wife had called her around 6 a.m. This elder's wife was very elderly at the time and had more energy than me on a good day. Both her and my sister saved me that day and continued to save me in the months that followed. A week later, we went back to court about the restraining order. The judge asked if I wanted it renewed. Yes, it was. The judge went on to the violation of probation for the previous assault charges. Judge did not like the way X spoke about me, stopped the proceedings and made the restraining order a permanent one. I never have to go to court to get it renewed. My DV advocate told me she has never seen this judge do that. Due to both charges, he spent 3 years in jail. During all the charges, DCF was involved because the assaults were in the home. Had a very good worker, I filed for divorce. The mistress I became friends with wrote me a letter about her affair with my ex. I stopped being her friend, but I do appreciate her letter. His mistress that I suspected started a smear campaign against me with my local police and the DCF worker through phone calls. Ex did the same through letters. The detective who handled the case gave me copies of the letters. In one of them my money card account information was in it. I couldn't have a regular bank account because he racked it up and I owed the bank money. When the police arrested him, he was in bed wearing nothing. He didn't have anything in his pants pockets. Cops allowed him to get dressed and he didn't bring his wallet with him. The money card account and routing number was a lot longer than regular bank account numbers. These numbers are easily had though if someone called up pretending to be me and giving my name, birth date and SSN number. I pointed this all out to the detective. He said it made sense because she, the bad mistress, gave him date, times and amounts of money I took off my card. At one point, she called the detective 30 times in 48 hours. The things they both said about me to the detective and DCF worker were things he did, not me. According to them, I had a drug problem, but I didn't. I did have a doctor prescribe pain pills from the assault, 3 from what I thought was heartburn, turns out it was gallstone attacks that landed me in the ER, and 1 prescription from the surgery to remove said gallbladder. The DCF worker saw my prescriptions during every monthly visit and knew I was not abusing them. At one point the worker was telling me all the things they were saying about me, and when she was done I offered to take a drug test. I took it and passed, obviously. Not only did they say I had a drug problem, they said I was a drug dealer. I wasn't. I wouldn't have been living in a crappy apartment, and I would have had a nice car if I had been doing what they were accusing me of. I did not have a car at all. They also said I was having relations in cars outside of a bar that I've never even been to. Don't get me wrong, I go to bars, karaoke fan, but I wasn't having relations in cars in parking lots. He had been diagnosed with a mental health problem when our youngest was an infant. He had been receiving disability and our kids were too through his claim. He wrote to the SSA office saying I was using my kids' money for drugs, but I wasn't. The SSA stopped payments for 2 months. I gave them permission to speak with my doctor about the results from my drug test, and only that. I also gave them the number of the DCF worker. It was resolved. They gave me the 2 payments they stopped and resumed regular monthly payments. There was 2 family court judges for the divorce. The first one took early retirement. The clerk told me it was because of our case. During one of the hearings with the first judge, the detective handling the criminal case was there to justify on my behalf. He didn't get to, but said after the hearing that it was like watching a Jerry Springer episode. X made the first judge so mad with the content of one of his letters to the kids that she stopped him from contacting the kids. He declared himself incompetent and got himself a GAL. Days later, he filed a 20+ page lawsuit in Superior Court against the first family court judge, the police station, and a number of other people. It didn't go anywhere and he lost the GAL. He subpoenaed my now former employer. He wanted my employment records and work emails to prove I was having an affair with my new boss. I wasn't. He subpoenaed his parents because he wanted them to have custody of the kids, including my 2 from my first marriage. They declined. The first judge not only stopped contact but ordered child support while he was still in jail. I hadn't asked. There were many court appearances, both family and criminal, during the first year. At least 1 a month. The same letters that caused the first family judge to stop contact also got him criminal charges for violating the restraining order. During that criminal case, while on break, my attorney and I were outside for a cigarette talking to other attorneys. I noticed his mistress was in her car taking video and pictures, regular camera and cell phone camera, of me outside the courthouse. Turns out it was legal, so I took pictures of her taking pictures of me with my attorney's cell phone. Finally, after 2 years, the divorce was final, or so I thought. We were on the second family court judge at this point. My attorney was unable to come to the final hearing, but sent another attorney in her stead. X was still in jail at this point. Unbeknownst to me, but the stand-in attorney knew, my ex filed an appeal within 30 days from behind bars. He then sat on the appeal. I went just over a year thinking I was divorced when I wasn't. I no longer had an attorney. I filed a motion to have his appeal dropped. Second judge said because he was the one who filed, he had to be the one who dropped it. I told the judge that he would never drop it and then asked the judge if that meant I would be stuck with my abusive ex legally for the rest of my life. The judge said yes. I had to involve my state representative's office in the matter. Finally, after 2 weeks shy of 4 years, the divorce was final. X was out of jail for 10 months by the time I filed to have his appeal dropped. He was unable to make it to court as he had been arrested again, even making the nightly news just days prior to the family court hearing about trying to get his appeal dropped. After a few years after the arrest, my oldest 2 from previous marriage decided they wanted to live with their dad, a good man now. As they were teens, I let them. My youngest 2 from abusive ex and I moved in with family. I took a course, got a career which I've been doing for 5 years now. I love my job. It is rewarding. I have bettered myself both emotionally and financially. I did not date for 3 years, and when I started dating, I set up strict rules for myself. Things were quiet for a while, at least with Court. There were times that things happened, like the emblem of my car was stolen, the 2 passenger tires of my family's car were slashed. I would see empty nip bottles of his drink littered around my home, along with empty packs of cigarettes that he smoked. He rode a motorcycle, and I swear he drove by, but because of a face covering, I couldn't prove he had driven by. The eyes are what made me know it was him. Spring of 2019, he filed a motion to have contact with the kids and to stop child support because he couldn't afford $100 per month for 2 kids, so $50 per month per kid. The dude has a car, truck and motorcycle though. The child support part was granted, but due to the fact that I wasn't served properly, the decision was cancelled and a new hearing was set. I was initially served at the homeless man's shelter he stayed at when he first got out. During the first hearing I was able to attend. He actually admitted in open court that he has had me followed. Much to my disbelief, and despite the restraining order, it was not illegal. There have been 2 instances where there have been private investigators on my street not far from my home that were questioned by police. Not sure if they were sent by my ex though. We had a few in-person court appearances before the pandemic, and we've had a few Zoom meetings. At the first in-person hearing I asked for a GAL for the kids. The first 3 offered the GAL position declined. I wonder why. He is dragging his own motion out just like he did with the divorce. It has been 2 years since he filed his motion and almost 2 years since the first hearing. My eldest child with him wants nothing to do with him. My youngest with him told me that they want to write letters. I had always told my kids, even before ex took me to court, that if they wanted to contact with their father, that I would make it happen. Once my youngest told me that they wanted letters, I filed my own motion in court to allow it, with certain parameters set in place. I even paid for a PO box for the letters to be sent to. Ex said the parameters were unacceptable. The judge was floored. We have another meeting with the GAL before the next Zoom court hearing. During one of the Zoom court hearings he said he wanted family and marital therapy. Seriously, how would marital therapy even work with a restraining order and the fact that we've been divorced for a few years? This has taken me over an hour to type up. It's an emotional subject for me. Although I am doing so much better, I still have some issues. I don't do well with loud expected noises or with people sneaking up behind me. When I was with my ex, he showed me how to find people through voter registration rolls, through the registry of motor vehicles, through the utility companies. He told me that if I ever left him, that I would always be his. That if I ever left him, he would make sure I never see the kids again. That if I ever left him and started dating, that he would cut off the head of my new guy and throw it in bed next to me. I do have a great guy now, over 3 years together. Like I said, I've been in the same field for 5 years now and I love it. Wish me luck, because this has been and will likely continue to be a crazy ride. And thank you very much, Scully, for typing up this emotional story, and I'm sure there are people in the audience that have been in abusive relationships before who can definitely relate to this story. And Ripe stars, unfortunately we have already reached the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed the content. However, if you cannot wait for more Ripe content, then I suggest you head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where you can find more exclusive Reddit content read by me. Patreon subscriptions start at just $1 per month, and for $1 your name will show up at the end of each of my new videos. However, if you are willing to spend $3 per month, you will get access to more than 50 exclusive Reddit videos, mostly just no mother-in-law stories. However, please understand, I don't want to pressure anyone into spending money, because I am already incredibly grateful that you watch my videos every single day. Thank you so much for your daily support, it really means the world to me, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for the next video.